Hello and welcome to Indus News Live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. The Taliban have once again warned the US against missing the August 31st deadline for the withdrawal of foreign troops. Addressing a press conference in Kabul, spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid said the group hasn't agreed to extend the deadline. He also called on the US to stop encouraging Afghans to leave their country. On the situation in Panjshir, he said the problem will be resolved through negotiations and the Taliban don't want violence in any Afghan province. China says the US, Britain, Australia and others must be held accountable for human rights violations by their military in Afghanistan. The Chinese ambassador was speaking at the UN Human Rights Council's hybrid virtual meeting on Afghanistan. Addressing the session, Pakistan's ambassador on behalf of OIC called on the international community to support peace, stability and development in Afghanistan. Indian troops have martyred two civilians in occupied Jammu and Kashmir Support district. The youths were targeted in a military operation in Patsir area of the district. The occupying troops have killed 4 Kashmiris in the past 24 hours. In Pakistan, authorities say all domestic and international air passengers would need to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by the end of next month. They also announced that unvaccinated people will not be allowed to use public transport from the 15th of October. This comes as the country recorded 91 deaths and over 4,000 infections overnight. Well, those were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. The Taliban have once again warned the US against missing the August 31st deadline for the withdrawal of foreign troops. Addressing a press conference in Kabul, spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid said the group hasn't agreed to extend the deadline. He also urged the US to stop encouraging Afghans to leave their country. He said the group is no longer allowing Afghan nationals to go to Kabul airport and called on crowds at the airport to go home. On the situation in Panjshir Valley, he said the problem will be resolved through negotiations with resistance forces. The spokesperson said the Taliban don't want violence in any Afghan province. Mujahid also said media outlets are safe and free to work under Taliban rule. For more on this, we have with us Sumaira Khan, our correspondent. She's updating us from Kabul. Sumaira, please tell us about the second presser of the Taliban spokesperson and how significant do you think it was?
Just a while ago, I attended a second press conference of the spokesperson of Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, Zabihullah Mujahid. He responded to many questions. He first of all, in his opening remarks, he tried to clear things about many issues that are prevailing right now with regards to Kabul. And I asked him a question that had two parts. One was regarding women's security, that what are you doing, what measures you are taking to secure women at their workplaces. And he responded to that every woman, those who are affiliated with any ministry of government, they have been asked to stay home for a while, because we have this spoiler alert from the propaganda machines that they can be harmed in the name of Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. So just to bust that propaganda, we have requested those honorable ladies to stay home for a while, and they'll be given their salaries at home. home. And once the situation is 100% controlled and the formation of new government is announced, they'll be called back to their duties, and there is no such situation where they have been stripped of their jobs anywhere in any media house or any ministry in the government or in a private sector. Second part of the question was regarding how they are engaging the international community diplomatically, because after 10 days everybody wants to listen to your plan ahead, and what are your plans ahead for engaging the international community constructively and to invite them to Afghanistan. He responded to that question: yes, we are engaging every embassy in Afghanistan. We have offered them to reopen their shutdown embassies. We have offered every country, regardless of any kind of background they were having in Afghanistan. And right now we would like to invite them once again to come to Afghanistan and continue their development projects as well, and work for the betterment of Afghans mutually. He also highlighted the US is once again creating a frenzy by inviting all Afghans to leave country, and this is not good, as it's a severe brain drain for Afghanistan, and Afghans in the greed of asylum and living abroad, they are leaving Afghanistan and they are humiliating themselves right outside Kabul airport, and they are being transported to other countries in a very humiliation. After they are facing humiliation at airport as well, just to board a plane and to flee from country. So he warned America not to do so and do not provoke the Afghan citizens to do so. So he warned America not to do so and do not provoke the Afghan citizens to do so. So after this, he also spoke about the CIA director's meeting with Mullah Baradar. He said, as I was responding to the question of the lady, I said that we are engaging everybody, but I cannot comment on a specific meeting with anyone from anyone of our leadership. So these were few salient features of this press conference. We'll be keeping you posted about more updates. Stay tuned with Industries.
Sumaira Khan, thank you for updating us. And now we're moving on. China says the US, Britain, Australia and others must be held accountable for human rights violations by their military in Afghanistan. The Chinese ambassador was speaking at the UN Human Rights Council's hybrid virtual meeting on Afghanistan. He said the US and other countries carried out military interventions in the name of democracy in other sovereign states. Addressing the session, Pakistan's ambassador on behalf of OIC called on the international community to support peace, stability and development in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, UN Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet said she had received credible reports of civilian executions by the Taliban. Bachelet urged the UN Human Rights Council to set up a mechanism to closely monitor Taliban actions. CIA Director William Burns has met secretly with Taliban leader Mullah Abdul Ghani Brother in Kabul to discuss the evolving situation in Afghanistan. It was the highest level diplomatic encounter since the Taliban's military takeover. According to a report in the Washington Post, the two sides discussed the impending August 31 deadline for the withdrawal of foreign troops. However, the CIA declined to comment on the meeting. The International Monetary Fund has thanked Pakistan for providing assistance in evacuating its staff from Kabul. In a tweet, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said Pakistan's efforts were absolutely critical to the evacuation of the staff and their families. Meanwhile, Pakistan has received $2.75 billion from the IMF under a global program to support low-income countries hit by the coronavirus. The funds will shore up the country's foreign reserves under pressure from a rise in the current account deficit. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has embarked on a visit to Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan and Iran. During the three-day visit, the Foreign Minister will have high-level interactions on the evolving situation in Afghanistan and bilateral relations. According to the Foreign Office, Qureshi will share Pakistan's perspective on the latest developments in Afghanistan. It said the Foreign Minister's visit will help promote a coordinated regional approach as well as strengthen Pakistan's engagement with Central and West Asia. Pakistan has successfully conducted a training launch of indigenously developed guided multi-launch rocket system Fateh-1. According to the military's media wing, the rocket system is capable of delivering a conventional warhead. It said the weapon system will give Pakistan Army capability of precision target engagement deep in enemy territory. The country's civilian and military leadership has congratulated the participating troops and scientists on the successful conduct of the flight test. Indian troops have martyred 2 civilians in occupied Jammu and Kashmir Support district. The youths were targeted during a military operation in Patsir area of the district. The operation was going on till the last reports came in. The occupying troops have killed 4 Kashmiris in the past 24 hours. On Monday, the Indian forces martyred 2 youths in the Srinagar district. Over 400 Kashmiris have been killed since New Delhi's illegal revocation of the Valley Special status in August 2019. Israeli forces have martyred a Palestinian teen in a raid on a refugee camp near the Nablus city in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Red Crescent said the occupation forces stormed the Balata camp and opened live fire. Witnesses said the intruders also arrested a young Palestinian from the camp, while a teenager was also detained from East Jerusalem. Earlier in Gaza, Israeli fighter jets launched air raids on Khan Yunis city, violating the May ceasefire with Hamas yet again. In a tweet, Israeli army claimed to have struck a military compound and a rocket launch site belonging to Hamas. There were no immediate reports of casualties in the air attacks. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed another explosive-laden drone launched by Houthis towards southern Saudi Arabia. In a statement, the coalition said Yemeni rebels attempted to target Khamis Mushat city. It said Houthis continue to deliberately and systematically target civilian infrastructure. Earlier, the coalition had intercepted another drone launched by the rebels towards the city. Turkey said its armed forces have carried out a huge air operation against the PKK militants in northern Iraq's Assus region. Turkey's defense ministry said 20 of its fighter jets participated in the operation, which targeted at least 28 targets. In a statement, the ministry said forces conducted the operation in coordination with Turkey's National Intelligence Agency. It said shelters, bunkers, ammunition depots, headquarters, and caves belonging to the terrorists were destroyed. China has slammed the U.S. for hiding behind the rhetoric of a rules-based global order to defend its own hegemonic behavior. The statement comes after U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris accused Beijing of intimidation in the South China Sea. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said Washington pursues what he called a selfish foreign policy. At a press briefing, Wang held up America's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan as an example. He criticized the U.S. for arbitrarily bullying other countries under the guise of self-defense without paying any price. Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte has agreed to be the ruling party's candidate for vice president in next year's elections. The announcement came ahead of a National Assembly on September 8. The PDP Laban Party is also expected to endorse Senator Christopher Bongo for the presidential candidate. Party's Vice President Carlo Nograles said the Duterte is making the sacrifice and heeding the clamor of the people. The incumbent president is legally barred from seeking another term in office. More news stories coming up after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. India has recorded 354 deaths from coronavirus and more than 25,000 cases in the past 24 hours. Globally, the COVID death toll is over 4.4 million, while the caseload has surpassed 212 million. More in this report.
The deadly pandemic keeps troubling the socio-economic fabric of the society while governments move to intensify their inoculation drives. Canada's British Columbia province is bringing in a vaccine card for residents to get access to a number of activities. In the US, the Federal Drug Regulating Authority granted full approval to the Pfizer vaccine, making it the first to secure such validation. However, transparency advocates criticize FDA's decision of not holding a formal advisory committee meeting to discuss Pfizer's application for full approval. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden made a fresh pitch to vaccine skeptics to get the shot to fight the relentless pandemic.
As I mentioned before, I've imposed vaccination requirements that will reach millions of Americans. Today, I'm calling on more companies, in the private sector to step up with vaccine requirements that will reach millions more people. If you're a business leader, a nonprofit leader, a state or local leader who has been waiting for full FDA approval to require vaccinations, I call on you now to do that. Require it. Do what I did last month. Require your employees to get vaccinated or face strict requirements.
New Zealand has recorded 41 daily cases, its highest increase since April last year. But authorities said the numbers are not rising exponentially and the majority of the cases are in Auckland. In Southeast Asia, Vietnam deployed soldiers to help enforce a strict lockdown in Ho Chi Minh City to contain the rising infections. In Kenya, hundreds of people from the iconic Maasai community queued up to get vaccinated as the East African nation confronts a severe fourth wave.
I will go and tell people, especially my age mates, some of whom are here, this disease adversely affects us old people. I will tell them to come here to Bizel Health Center to get vaccinated.
The Asian Development Bank says the pandemic may have pushed as many as 80 million people in the developing Asia continent into extreme poverty last year. In France, health authorities said the number of people hospitalized for COVID-19 is at the highest level in more than 2 months.
Pakistan has made COVID-19 vaccination mandatory for foreign travelers after 30th of September. At a press conference, Planning Minister Asad Umar said only fully vaccinated passengers will be allowed in the country after that. He said citizens aged 17 and 18 will be eligible for vaccination from 1st of September. Prime Minister's advisor on health, Faisal Sultan, noted that the process of vaccinating citizens aged 15 to 16 will start soon. Umar also announced that the unvaccinated people will not be allowed to use public transport from 15th of October. In addition, unvaccinated school teachers and staff will also not be permitted to work after the deadline. The country is currently battling the fourth wave of virus and has recorded 91 deaths and over 4,000 infections overnight. In Nigeria, gunmen have killed 2 military personnel and abducted another in an attack on an army training college in Kaduna State. In a statement, a spokesman of the academy said that the gunmen gained access to the residential area within the college. Major Bashir Mood Jajira added that the pursuit of gunmen has started, while rescue mission for the abductees was also underway. Attacks and kidnappings have spiked in the recent months, especially in north-central and northwestern parts of the country. Tunisian President Kais Saied has extended the suspension of parliament until further notice. In a statement, the presidency said Saied also extended the suspension of the immunity of members of parliament. It added that the president will give a speech to the nation in the coming days without giving more details. Saied dismissed the parliament and assumed the executive authority on July 25th for a month. He has said his intervention was needed to save the country from collapse, but opponents brand his move as a coup. Earlier, the head of Tunisia's Ennahda party dismissed party's executive committee amid criticism of his handling of political crisis. The U.S. has sanctioned the Eritrean army chief for allegedly committing human rights abuses in Ethiopia's Tigray region. In a statement, the Treasury Department said it will continue to take action against those involved in serious rights abuse. It called on Eritrea to immediately and permanently withdraw its forces from Ethiopia. The Treasury also urged the parties to the conflict to begin ceasefire negotiations and end human rights abuses. The U.S. accuses Eritrean troops of massacres, looting, rape, torture, executions, and purposely shooting civilians. Meanwhile, the Eritrean Foreign Ministry said it rejected Washington's action as utterly baseless and blackmail. In a statement, it said the U.S. must bring the case to an independent adjudication if it has facts to prove its false allegations. In the U.S. state of Tennessee, rescue teams are continuing to search for dozens of people missing after record downpours and flash flooding. At least 22 people have died over the weekend after floodwaters wreaked havoc across the state. President Joe Biden has declared a major disaster exists in the state and ordered federal aid. Authorities say 40 people are unaccounted for in Humphreys County, west of Nashville. They said rescue teams are using dogs to find people. Meanwhile, residents across the waterlogged Northeast began clearing mud after deluges dropped by Tropical Storm Henry. Its remnants threatened further flooding in New England as the system made a slow trek back to the sea. In the U.S. state of California, crews are lighting backfires to deprive the Caldor of fuel as it rages for a 9th consecutive day. The blaze has burned through 30,000 acres over the weekend alone. This report has more.
As parts of the world receive record downpours, triggering devastating flash flooding. Raging wildfires continue to eat up acreages globally, reinforcing the urgency to tackle climate change. In California, fire crews are creating a perimeter for the advancing Caldor fire. Authorities say the fire has charred 104,000 acres and is only 5% contained so far. Meanwhile, down south in Brazil, firefighters struggled to control a blaze at Jaqueire State Park in Sao Paulo. Authorities say 3 active fires have burned through more than 1,200 hectares. They noted dry weather and high temperatures helped the flames spread. Over in Europe, wildfires in southern France have been brought under control but are yet to be extinguished. Some 400 crews are battling the flames, which have burned through 8,000 hectares and claimed 2 lives. In Greece, a new blaze has erupted in a forested area that was devastated by flames last week, prompting evacuations from 2 villages.
And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. China's Hebei province has kept forging ahead in the development of both rural and urban areas over recent years. President Xi Jinping visited the province and inspected major forest farms in Changde city of the province.
Over the years, Hebei has made leaps ahead in socio-economic development, rural revitalization and the modernization of agriculture. It has registered more than 35 billion kilograms of annual food yielding for 8 years, while local dairy production has topped national lists for 7 years. In the field of manufacturing, Hebei's Tangshan city, widely known as the cradle of China's modern time industrial field, has also been flourishing. With Qinhuangdao Port, Tangshan Port and Huangguang Port, Hebei, as a vital hub, China's logistic base is merging into the Belt and Road Initiative. It has also become a beacon of global ecological management, and the province's total installed capacity of wind and solar power has ranked 3rd in the country. The Saihamba forest farm in the province, with more than 76,666 hectares of trees, was rewarded United Nations Champions of the Earth Award. At the moment, Hebei's Shangxinkao city has also completed the construction of venues for the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games.
The Wall Street stocks have edged higher following a full U.S. approval of a COVID-19 shot that helped boost energy shares. Besides the energy stocks, the shares of major banks had also surged. The Nasdaq Composite traded over 0.5% higher. The indices of S&P 500 and DJI also traded 0.25% up. Meanwhile, the oil prices had risen, extending sharp gains on a bullish demand outlook as Mexico suffered a big production outage. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.